Okay, let's dive right into this. So DC just dropped a new teaser and it's a total head scratcher. All we have to go on is a black screen and this one really cryptic audio clip. It's weird, it's unsettling, and it's literally the only clue we have. So today we're going to put on our detective hats and break this thing down. So get a load of this. The audio says, "Do you realize that you have the most beautiful heat, heat, heat? Do you realize?" I mean, what is that? The way it repeats heat, 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 the strange delivery, it's all designed to be completely disorienting. It doesn't feel like a normal sentence. It feels more like a broken memory, or maybe even some kind of desperate plea. And that's the million-dollar question we're going to tackle. What story is this single line actually hinting at? Because I'm telling you, there is a deep, probably tragic narrative hiding just under the surface of these words. To solve this, we got to do what any good detective would. We got to break down the evidence. So we're going to look at who we know this is about. We'll look at the keywords they're using and what that might tell us about who's actually speaking. First up, the subject. We know for a fact this teaser is for Clayface. Now, he's a classic Batman villain for sure, but he's one of those characters whose origin and personality have been reinvented so many times over the years. And that gives the creators a ton of room to play. Now, it's super important to remember, Clayface isn't just a big mud monster. At his core, he is a character defined by tragedy. He's usually Basil Karlo, an actor who loses his identity, his face, his entire career. He loses everything. He becomes this being of pure, unstable emotion, just trapped in a monstrous body. And understanding that context is absolutely essential to cracking this code. So with that tragic backstory in mind, let's zero in on the most powerful part of the quote, beautiful heat. This phrase is the absolute heart of the whole mystery. It feels like a contradiction, doesn't it? How can heat possibly be beautiful? Well, that depends entirely on what kind of heat we're talking about. And this brings us to what I think is a brilliant word choice. On one hand, heat could be totally literal, the searing pain of chemicals or fire that actually created him. The birth of the monster. But on the other hand, it could be metaphorical. The heat of a performance, the passion of an artist, that inner fire that drove the man he used to be. That ambiguity feels completely intentional. Okay, so we've got our clues, a tragic character and a key phrase that has a very clever dual meaning. Now, let's see how these pieces can build into a few really compelling theories about the story this teaser is trying to tell us. What is this scene that we're eavesdropping on? Are we hearing the moment of his creation? Is this a memory of a life that's long gone? Or is it an observation of the monster as he is right now? I think there are three main possibilities, and each one paints a very different but equally tragic picture of Clayface. Let's call them the tragic origin, the actor's lament, and the monster's power. Let's start with the most visceral one, the most gut punch of an interpretation. This theory suggests the line is being spoken by someone who is watching Basil Karlo transform as it's happening. In this scenario, the heat is literal. It's the searing, agonizing process of him becoming Clayface. And the speaker, maybe a mad scientist or some twisted director, is looking at this horrifying event and seeing it as a kind of grotesque art, a beautiful creation. This would frame Clayface's birth as this act of perverse artistry. Pretty dark, right? All right, now for a more melancholy idea. This theory suggests the line is actually a memory, spoken either by Basil Karlo himself or maybe by someone who knew him before he became a monster. So here, the heat is purely metaphorical. It's the passion, the fire, the charisma he had when he was on stage. The speaker is remembering this brilliant performer and just mourning the loss of that beautiful heat, which has now been replaced by the monster. It's a line that's just steeped in sadness and nostalgia. Our third theory kind of combines elements from the other two. It imagines the quote is being spoken in the present day by someone who is watching the fully formed Clayface in action. In this version, the heat is the raw emotional energy that fuels Clayface's powers. His rage, his sorrow, his power all made real. The speaker is mesmerized by it, seeing this terrifying but awe-inspiring beauty in the sheer destructive force of his unchecked emotions. So we have these three distinct possibilities, but what's really important here isn't necessarily which one is correct. It's what all three of them tell us about the kind of Clayface we're about to meet. At the end of the day, no matter which theory you lean towards, they all point to a deeply psychological take on the character. This is not going to be a simple brute. This Clayface is driven by intense emotion. His story is rooted in tragedy and art, and that paints a picture of a villain who is way more complex than just a monster of the week. And that's really the genius of this minimalist approach. With just one strange sentence, the creators have sparked all this debate and painted this vivid picture of a character who's defined by what's going on inside his head. They haven't given us a single answer, but they have absolutely made us ask all the right questions. So ultimately, that's the question this whole teaser leaves us with. Are we about to witness the horrifying moment a monster is born? Or are we hearing the sad, fading echo of the brilliant man he used to be? The answer, it seems, is that he is, tragically, beautifully, both.